Masechet Baba Mesia Daf Ayin Tet. Amar Rabba Bar Rav Huna Amar Rav. Remember that this tradition is in the name of Rav. It'll be relevant in a minute. Hasocheret hachamor lirkob aleha umeta lo b'chasi haderech. Noten lo secharo shel chasi haderech ve'en lo alav ela taromet. Someone rents a donkey to ride on it, and the donkey dies halfway along the journey. The renter still has to pay for half of the rental value because it got him halfway. And what about the rest of the trip? Well, the renter can only complain to the owner. This was really annoying. I had to find another donkey somehow the rest of the way. It was a total inconvenience. He can lodge a complaint. However, there is no financial claim for the rest of it. That is Rav's law. Let's analyze. Well, so what kind of case is it? Are there other donkeys around? So then, why does he have a complaint? So the owner of the donkey says, all right, died halfway. You went, go down the block and you get another donkey in the midway, wherever you were, and then you take that the rest of the way and pay half. So why is there a reason to lodge a complaint? There's no complaint here. And what if he's in a place where there's no donkeys available to rent? The donkey dies in the middle of the desert. There's nothing around. Well, then, why should the renter have to pay even for the first half? What good did it do? You gave me a donkey to get me from A to B. I didn't get to B. I got stuck in the middle of nowhere. So then he should not have to pay anything at all. This was not a benefit for him to have to come all that way, to go halfway. So that's the question. The answer. In fact, it is a place where if were donkeys available, there would be no reason for the complaint. It's talking about a place where he landed, there were no donkeys available to rent to go the rest of the way. Nevertheless, the owner of the donkey says, well, if you had wanted to go from point A to halfway, would you not have had to pay the fee, this half fee? Let's say you wanted to get there, then you would have to pay. So here, look, you got there. You got halfway. That's better than nothing. You're still closer, so you still have to pay for half. Okay, so it is in fact talking about that a case where there were no donkeys available, and that's why it's a complaint, because it's still very annoying, right, that your donkey didn't take me the whole way. But, okay, we understand you still have to pay for half, because the donkey did get him halfway after all. Now we ask further. Now, in this subcase, right, what were the circumstances of the agreement? If the renter said, I want a donkey, I don't care which one, just give me a donkey. You go to rent a car, I don't care which car, just give me, a car, I need to get there. So then, if this one dies, then the owner has to provide another one. That was the terms of the agreement, that has to be a donkey, and if this one died, so the owner is on the line and does have to provide something else. It's not just a complaint. And if in the original agreement the renter said, I want this donkey, you go to rent a car, and I said, yeah, you like this particular one. You look around in the lot, I want that one. So if he says, I want this one in particular, and it dies, now the owner does not have to provide a different one because you only rented this specific one. However, if the value of the carcass of the donkey is sufficient, let's say the donkey when it was alive was worth $1,000. Now that it's dead, the body is still worth $500. You could sell it to a non-Jew to eat. So then why doesn't he take the $500 and I'll buy a cheaper donkey, but it'll get him along the rest of the way. So if there is enough money in the carcass, then he should buy it. So either way, there's no reason for there to be a complaint, because either the owner, if he said, I want any donkey, has to provide another donkey. And if he said this particular donkey, then the renter can sell the body of the donkey and buy a new one. So you know what, Rav's halacha was talking about in a case where the carcass was not sufficient worth. It was worth only $200 and not enough to buy a new donkey. So now we ask, all right, fine, there may not be enough to buy a new donkey, but there should be enough to at least rent another animal. And if this, so he'll sell the carcass for $200, and he can rent another donkey, and therefore there should be no complaint. Why does he have to lodge a complaint? Just use the money. Rav letamed amar Rav la mechalinan karna. Oh, Rav is following his own opinion elsewhere, because he says that the renter is not allowed to fully deplete all of the principal of the item. He has to give back the principal that he had rented. It would be like if I rent a car and it breaks down in the middle. I can't sell the car and take an Uber and use the proceeds for an Uber and tell the rental company, oh, well, your car broke down, so I sold it and I used the rest for the Uber, so we're even. No, you can't do that. Even though it broke down and they have to replace it and they're responsible and all that, you still have to, you can't do something that's going to erase the basic amount of the principal that they own. Itmar, and here's the source where Rav says that. Hasocher et hachamor umeta lo b'chasi haderech. Amar Rav, im yesh bedameh likach yikach liskor, al yiskor. Ushmel amar af liskor yiskor. Someone who rents a donkey and it dies in the middle of the halfway. Rav says if there's sufficient proceeds from selling the body of the dead donkey to buy a new one, then that's okay. You can buy a new one because then you're not depleting the principal, because now the owner of the dead donkey will now own this new donkey. So, and that's he'll continue to own it after the rental period is done. So that's fine. And if there's only enough sufficient funds from selling the dead donkey to rent an animal, and that's it, and then after the rental, that's it. There's not going to be nothing. The owner will be left with nothing. You're not allowed to do that. Shmuel disagrees and says, even if there's enough money, not only not to buy, but to rent, you can rent it and you can deplete the principal. But my kami palge, what's at the essence of the machloket? Exactly what we said. Rav savar la machlinan karna, ushmel savar machlinan karna. Rav says you don't deplete the principal, and Shmuel says you do deplete the principal. And so now we have the scenario in which Rav said his halacha. But now we're going to challenge Rav's principle that he said here, that we don't deplete the principal. And this challenge is going to be from a Toseftan Arachin, Metibe, Yabashailan Oniksas, Shenehem Asurin Bo. Let's say I borrowed money from you, and I have a tree that's a fig tree. So I say, listen, this fig tree, you can take all the fruit from it. Let's say I borrowed $1,000, so you can take all the figs up to $1,000. That's it. When you get the $1,000 fig, then I get my tree back. Now, so that's the deal. In the meantime, you took some of the fruit of the tree, but the tree dried up or it was cut down. And now all we have is a log that it's not producing fruit anymore. You can use it for the wood, but there's nothing being produced anymore. So what should we do? Who gets the log? So what we have to do is, I sell the tree, use the proceeds to buy land, and then whatever the land produces, you get to pay back the rest of the loan. The idea is that was the agreement, that I'm going to keep something that's the principal, and I'll pay off the loan with fruits of something. This tree cannot happen anymore. You don't get the tree to take the tree to pay off the loan, because I was supposed to keep the principal, and it's not. I can't just keep the tree because I owe you money, and you deserve the proceeds from the tree. Now the tree can't produce any fruit, so we'll transfer the money to land which can produce fruit. You get the fruit, and then when it's done, it's my land, and then I can use the land from there. Use the land thereafter. Now we're going to ask. Now, if we do sell the tree and buy land, but once Yovel comes, the land is going to go back to its original owner, and I'm the borrower, and not going to have any land, and so you see the principal will be depleted, right? For the $1,000. I mean, it's not clear how far away is the Yovel, how much is the loan, but let's say that it's going to be Yovel's going to come before the time that, or right at the time that the loan is paid. So you're going to be enjoying the fruit of the land the entire time, and then Yovel's going to come and take it, and I'm left with zero. So that's a challenge to Rav. How could we make this deal? We have an answer. It's talking about a case where we sell the tree and we buy the land for 60 years. 60 years will be more than the Yovel, and a very interesting halacha that if the original sale was for 60 years or for some time that goes over the Yovel, it does not go back in the Yovel year. Amar Rav Chisda, Amar Rav Katina, minan mocher sadeu ל-60 shana, she'ena chozeret bayovel shene'emar, v'az lo timachel lismitut, mi she'en sham Yovel nismetet, yesh sham Yovel ena nismetet. Yasa zo she'af al pi she'en sham Yovel ena nismetet. Rav Chisda said in the name of Rav Katina, how do you know that if someone sells a field for 60 years, a term of 60 years, a 60-year lease, that it will not go back to the original owner in the Jubilee year, because the Pasuk says, land, you're not allowed to sell in perpetuity. That's a lav. You're not allowed to sell land forever, and meaning it'll go back in the Yovel. However, where does this apply? It only applies in a case were it not for Yovel, it would be in perpetuity. If so, then Yovel comes and says, oh, it cannot be in perpetuity, it goes back. But if it's a sale that would not have been in perpetuity anyway, right, because it had a time limit, like this case where it's a lease for only 60 years, it's going to go back to the original owner after 60 years, then Yovel does not cancel it, right? So in this Afal Pisha and Sham Yovel, even if there was no Yovel, it would not be in perpetuity. Therefore, Yovel does not come and force you to give it back, and so it could be a case where it goes for longer, for 60 years. Now we ask about that. Sof sof lechi matu shitin shenin kahadad alemara v'kakal yakarna. Okay, fine. You gained us some more years, right? However many more, 10 more or maybe more, depending on where we were. And during the Yovel, but nevertheless, let's say I owe you a lot of money and you're going to be using the field the whole time, and then the 60th year comes and that's it, I'm going to lose the land, so all of my principal is gone. I never get to use the land. Rather, it must be talking about a case where the Yovel is not in effect. Like nowadays, when most Jews are not in the land of Israel, although we're almost there, then the Yovel the law of Yovel does not apply and land does not go back. So we're talking about a case like that. So actually, you don't need this answer for 60 years, but it's good we brought it in because we learned that very important halacha. So if there's no Yovel, it's never going to go back. So then, we'll sell the tree, we'll buy a piece of land, you enjoy the fruit of the land for however long it is, 70 years, if it's a small piece of land and it's a big loan, fine, so you'll enjoy that, and then eventually I will get my land back, and the principal will not be depleted because I'm going to get it back, and I will use it and enjoy its fruits for some time after. And so this makes a lot of sense that has to be this case, because if it were talking about a case where the Yovel does apply, then the principal would be depleted, and instead of selling the tree to buy land, which then the land will go back in the Yovel and be depleted anyway, you may as well not bother and just cut the tree into branches and use it for kindling, and that's it. Just the lender will take the entire tree, and then the borrower will be left with nothing. He's going to be left with nothing anyway. You're just adding extra steps for no reason. So it makes sense that it has to be a case where there is no Yovel, and that's why the borrower knows that he'll be able to enjoy his land at some point in the future, and the principal is not depleted. Now we say just about this last proof, imishumha lakashya. That proof is not a really good proof, because we could answer this question that you had. Zimnin de shalmu shene mashkanta mikame yovel ina medematu le zuzeu parigla arba vechamesh shenin mikame yovel. It could be that we're talking about a case where the yovel does apply. And many times it happens that the amount of the loan is paid off before the time of the yovel. So the tree dies. We buy land in the 10th year since the yet last yovel. Okay, in 20 years you eat the fruit and it's all finished. Now we're still only in the 30th year, so I still have 20 more years that I can use the land before it will go back to its owner. So the principal is not depleted. So this is a more typical case. We could have said this right from the outset. Or it could be a case where, in fact, the loan was big and the land was small. It would have taken a long time. But I might make some money in between. I made a good deal, and I'll take that money and I'll pay back the loan before I need to. I'll prepay the loan so I can get the land back, and maybe I'll redeem it 4 or 5 years before the next yovel, before it will go back. And so I'll still be able to enjoy the land myself. So either way, it's a very likely and a good possibility that I can, if we sell the tree and buy land, I'll be able to enjoy that land, and the principal will not be depleted forever. Now, even though these cases are actually quite likely and could have been the answer to begin with, I think we wanted to go through this exercise so that we could learn these important laws about yovel. We next have a braita about a similar case, but this time instead of a donkey, it's a boat. Tenor banan, hasocher sefina v'taba'ala b'chasi haderech. Rabbi Natan omer, im natan lo yitol, v'im lo natan lo yiten. Somebody rents a boat so that he can bring his merchandise from point A to point B. And so he puts the merchandise on it, and it sinks halfway there. So what's the law? Does he still have to pay rent? Rabbi Natan has an interesting ruling. He says if he already paid rent, the renter, then he cannot get a refund. But if he didn't pay it yet, then he doesn't have to pay. Now this is a strange ruling, right? How could you have a case where does he owe the money or does he not owe the money? Why would it make a difference? You just leave it status quo. So hechidame, what could be the case? Ilema bisfina zo v'yain stam. Im natan amai lo yitol. Nemale habli sifinta da'ana maitina hamra. So what were the original terms of the agreement? If it was that the renter said, I want this particular boat. I'm not renting any other boat. I want this one. And I'm going to bring any wine that I have. He happens to be a wine seller. So, whatever batches of wine I want to put on it, I'm going to. In that case, why should the renter, the wine seller, not get a refund? He deserves a refund because he has a strong claim. He can tell the renter, give me the boat. I asked for this particular boat, and now you cannot provide it anymore because it sank. I'm ready with another batch of wine, because after all, I said I could bring any batches of wine that I can on the boat. I didn't specify which one, so the wine that I was from the first batch, that sank along with your boat. But I have more wine, and I want to bring it on the boat that I rented. I'm ready to go through with the deal. You're not ready to go through with the deal. So therefore, I paid you. You have to pay me back. Give me a refund. So in that case, the renter would deserve a refund. So it can't be that. Ela bisfina stam v'yayin zeh. Im lo natan amai lo yiten. So let's see, switch it around and say the original agreement was, I want a boat. I don't care which boat, just give me one. And because I want to transport this particular batch of wine, this is what I need to send. In that case, if he did not pay, why does he not have to pay? He should definitely have to pay. Because now the owner of the boat has a stronger claim. He can say, listen, you wanted to transport that particular batch of wine? Fine, bring the batch of wine and I'll provide a boat because I can provide any boat, but you specified that batch of wine, which is now at the bottom of the ocean. So therefore, since the owner of the boat, of all the boats, is ready to go through with the deal, and it's the seller of the wine who cannot provide his side of the deal, therefore he should have to pay. Even if he didn't pay, he should have to pay now. So we have an answer finally. Amar Papa, Lamashkachata ela bisfina zo v'yayin zeh, aval bisfina stam v'yayin stam holkin. So Rabbi Natan's ruling over here would apply if the terms of the deal were that the renter says, I want this particular boat, I like this one, because I want to transport this particular batch of wine. So the terms of the deal were particular on both sides. Therefore, when the boat sank, now neither side can go ahead with the deal. The wine seller cannot provide that batch of wine, and the boat owner cannot provide that boat. Therefore, we leave it as status quo. If you paid already, you can't get your money back. If you didn't pay yet, you don't have to pay. That's it. The deal is just frozen as it is. However, if they both said, Stam, give me any boat because I'm going to transport any wine that I want, in that case, both of them are available to go ahead with the deal, but they are not doing so, and therefore they split the money. Because that's it. They're both deciding that it's not worth it for them to go ahead with the deal, or rather, they're both equally able to go through with the deal, and for whatever reason, it's not happening. So then they split the difference. If he paid already, he gets a half a refund, and if he did not pay yet, then he'll have to pay half.
תנו רבנן, הסוחר את הספינה ופרקה לה בחצי הדרך, נותן לו שכרו של חצי הדרך, ואין לו עליו אלא תרעומת. So another braita. Somebody rents a ship to bring some merchandise from one point to another, and he unloads it halfway through. He says, you know what, I found a good port over here, and there's a market, and I'm just going to unload it here. So then the renter only has to pay half of the amount. Total amount was $100 for the total rental. Well, I stopped halfway. I don't need the boat anymore. Here is $50, and the owner of the boat has only a complaint against him for stopping early, not going through with the whole deal, but cannot sue him for the other $50. Now we ask, what exactly is the case? If there are other people that can rent the boat at the midpoint there's a market there's a port, there's other people that need the boat, so then what complaint will the owner have to the renter? He'll be able to find another customer just as easily. And if they are stopping in a place where there are no renters around, then the renter should have to pay the full amount to the owner of the boat. The owner of the boat says, you're stopping here in the middle of nowhere? Now what? I can't get another customer here. You agreed to the $100, so pay me the whole $100. I can't do anything with this boat in the middle of nowhere here. So either way, either there's no complaint or he should pay the full amount. Where will we find a case where it's okay to just pay half the amount and have a complaint? In fact, there are other renters around, and so what's the reason for the complaint? Mishum rafseta disfinta, because of the wear and tear on the boat. There's a lot of wear and tear by docking and undocking, loading and unloading, and so all that was included in the original price of $100. But now that you're stopping midway, you're going to pay just $50. $50 does not cover the cost of the unloading and loading and the docking and undocking, which you're doing just the same. That's a relatively large amount of the wear and tear. So it's true, you're not going as far anymore, but the wear and tear is still significant, and is more than 50% of the value for the loss for the owner because of the wear and tear. If that's the case, then why do you say it's only a complaint? It's a proper legal claim. The owner should say, listen, the wear and tear on the boat is for docking, undocking, loading and unloading is itself $60. And then for the travel would be $40. Okay, you only went halfway, so fine. For that $40, make it only $20. But he should still pay $80 because there's still the same amount, almost the same amount of wear and tear on the boat. Maybe it's just a little less time, so you make a discount, but it's a real claim, not just a complaint. Rather, we go to a whole totally new explanation of what perakah means. Usually it means to unload, but here we mean the opposite, that he unloaded his cargo from land, more of it onto the ship, so that
they had agreed on a certain amount, and then the renter, right, puts on lots more than they had expected, than the owner of the boat had expected. So he's still taking the full journey. He's still going to pay the same amount. However, what's all this extra stuff that you're putting on here? Okay, so now if he's just putting on extra stuff, so what's the big deal? I mean, what's the difference? He's still traveling the whole way and getting his amount of money. So the complaint is going to be that you changed intention, and so this is going to be, it might take slower now to go with the extra cargo, some a little bit more wear and tear, but they had not agreed on a fixed amount that he can now sue him. But it was an assumption, right? He came in and said, "Here, I'm taking all this stuff here." So the owner of the boat looks at it and says, "Okay, fine, $100." And all of a sudden, he brings 2 more trucks of stuff, right? So it's not that he can complain. It's not that he can say no or charge extra, but he still can have a complaint, either because of that or because of the extra rope that they're going to need to tie the extra cargo on. The boat owner provides the rope, and now he has some extra rope. Okay, it's not such a big deal that he can sue him financially, but he still can lodge an official complaint about it. Next case, Tana Rabbanan. Hasocher tachamol lirkob aleha, socher maniach aleha kisuto ve'ulginuto mezonot shel ota haderech. So someone rents a donkey to ride on it with the donkey driver. The donkey driver is going to pull it, and the consumer, the customer, is going to ride on it to get from place A to place B. So the customer, he has his own weight that the donkey is obviously going to carry, and he can also add a garment that might be a blanket he uses as a cushion or something. It's also an extra blanket that he can have, and his water jug and food for the entire journey. Let's say it's a 10-day journey, so the customer can bring 10 days worth of food, even though the donkey is going to have to carry all this. That's part of the deal. How's he gonna go without water and food for the road? But if the customer wants to also bring some merchandise, he also wants to bring 2 suitcases, no, then you have to pay extra. This is like the budget airlines. Oh, you want a suitcase? Oh, that's a different story. So then he has to pay for that. It makes sense. Hamar maniach alav seorim beteben umzonotav shel oto hayom mekan velo socher me'akeb alav. Now the donkey driver himself, he's also going on the way because he comes with the donkey, he leads it, and now he also needs some provisions. So he's allowed to put on the donkey barley and hay for the donkey to eat, and also for his own food for the first day. Okay, so it's interesting. There's a difference between a customer, he can bring food for the entire way, whereas the donkey driver can only bring food for 1 day. After that, if he wants to bring extra stuff, then the customer could say, "No, I don't want to go on a donkey that is carrying too much stuff. It's going to be slower." So he can stop the other one from doing it. Right? They're both interested in the other person bringing less stuff and weighing down the donkey less. Okay, so these are the minimums. Now we ask, Kechi dame, id shchech limizban, chamar name liakev. Id la shchech limizban, socher name la liakev. So what is the case? If there is food available for purchase every night they're going to stop somewhere. They'll stop in some a motel or something, and there'll be a cafe nearby. So if there's food that can be found, so then the chamar, the donkey driver, should be able to tell the customer, "No, only bring food for 1 day. We're going to stop each night, and you'll buy food at every stop." And if there is not going to be food found during the journey, then the renter should also not be able to stop the donkey driver from bringing 10 days worth of food, right? Where is he going to find food on the way? So either it should be consistent. Either both of them can bring food for the whole journey because there's no food available, or neither of them can bring food for the whole journey, only food for 1 day. because they both can buy wherever they get to. That's the question. Amar Rav Papa, la sericha de shechiach lemitrach ulmizban me'avna le'avna. Chamar darke lemitrach ulmizban soched lav darke lemitrach ulmizban. Rav Papa explains that there is food available, but you have to go through some trouble to get it from one station to the other. In other words, there's like truck stops. And the truckers, the donkey drivers, they know how to go through that trouble. They're used to it. They go all the time, and they go to the truck stops and they figure out how to find food. It's not like there are vendors readily available with grocery stores and restaurants. It's hard to find. So the donkey drivers, they can be forced to find food on the way. They are used to it, but the customer who's not used to stopping at these truck stops is allowed to bring food for the entire way. Tenor Rabbanan, hasocher et hachamor lirkob alav ish, lo tirkab aleha isha, isha lo rocheb aleha ish. If someone rents an animal with the condition that a man will ride on it, then a woman should not ride on it. But if they made a condition that a woman will ride on it, then a man may ride on it. The reason for this is that when a man rides an animal, he puts one leg on each side and he's well balanced right on top of the animal, so it's easier for the animal to carry a man. Women, however, in olden days, until relatively recently, when they would ride an animal, they would ride side saddle, both legs on one side. And therefore, she's not as well balanced, and it's more difficult for the donkey to have to carry a woman. Even though she's on average lighter, nevertheless, it's more difficult for the donkey because she's not as well balanced on top of it. And therefore, if they said, listen, this donkey is going to carry a woman, then carrying a man all is easier, and therefore all the more so is included in the agreement, but not the other way around. Now, if they had agreed that a woman is going to ride it, ve'isha, that ben gedula ben ketana afilu me'oberet afilu menika. It doesn't matter whether she's an adult or a child, whether she is pregnant or nursing. If she's nursing, then we're assuming that she's also carrying the baby with her. Which is two people technically, but if it's an infant, so it doesn't weigh too much. Now we ask, why do you have to mention pregnant and nursing? If nursing is permitted, where it's in fact two people, the mother and the infant, then do you have to tell me pregnant where it's only one person, right? Albeit a person who weighs a bit more, but wouldn't that be obvious? Amar Papa me'oberet v'hi menika ka'amar. Papa explains we're talking about a pregnant woman who is also nursing. That's what it means. So it goes menika, she's nursing, and even if she's pregnant and nursing, it's also fine. That's all considered one woman. Amar Abaye shema mina binita akrasa takla lemay nafkamina lemikachu mimkar. Abaye says we learn from here that a binita, a certain type of fish, its weight is in its belly, meaning that if you want to weigh a fish, why do we need to know this? This is to buy and sell fish. If you're looking at a fish and you say you're trying to estimate how much it weighs, so you got to look at the belly during mating season. It might be full with a lot of eggs, and that will make it weigh more. Now he learns, so that's why he said this in the first place, and he derives this from this fact that a pregnant woman weighs more than a non-pregnant woman, and so even so, if you contract that this donkey is hired to carry a woman, it doesn't matter whether she's pregnant or not. Another point is, even though she's pregnant and therefore will be extra weight, so he learns from here that some pregnant woman weighs more, and he learns from that regarding fish, if its belly is full of eggs, then it will weigh more, and that will have an effect on the price. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.